Welcome to another celebration show, Chiefs fans. You're just going to have to get used to it. It's going to be ugly. Welcome to the new Kansas City Chiefs. We're going to talk about the Denver Broncos, what happened, what needs to happen next, how they get past this, or if they can, all with Matt Derrick still at the stadium. It's like 17 minutes past 2 a.m. or something like that. We're going to get to it right now on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Thank you, folks. We appreciate you making us your first listen today. Check another Locked On show for that. Matt Derrick is here and still awake. His eyes moving and everything. I like that. We are post game, Matt. I know you're fresh out of the pressers. Is it? Am I being fair? Is this winning ugly? Is this what it feels like?
Yeah, winning ugly. Tyrann Mathieu referred to it as weathering the storm. I think that's fairly accurate as well. Yeah, I mean, this is a great example of that. I mean, you look at the numbers and there's nothing that stands out that says this was a Chiefs blowout win. I mean, they gave up, 162 yards to the opposing running back. They had a couple of really bad drops. They had a bad turnover. The offense only scores one touchdown. I can make a lot of cases for why the Chiefs should not have won this game, but they won it fairly convincingly. Was never really in doubt. And they just keep on rolling, and defense is a big part of it. But this was definitely an ugly, ugly win, but a win nonetheless.
Yeah, it was ugly, and I apologize. I am not feeling great, so I am here. But
we're just glad you're here.
Yeah.
Exactly. Chris is a gamer.
He has the flu. We thought we might be sending him to the hospital. Thanks for being here.
So I'm here, so I apologize ahead of time. But I want to say it was an ugly game, and I'm just going to get this out of the way now because I think it needs to be said. Byron Pringle showed up to play on special teams. He may have dropped a ball. He may have screwed up, with a couple of plays on offense, but he absolutely changed the game with that punt. What? It's not even a block. It's causing a fumble by the returner. You see my brain's working so well right now. Sorry.
You're on fire.
Yeah. Well, quite literally blocking a guy into the returner to cause a fumble. He was running violently down the field, and I saw it when it was happening, and I thought he was going to make a huge hit, and then he ends up doing that. It was a great play by him.
And the funny thing is that it was ruled, and the reason why it was ruled a muff was because the officiating crew said that Pringle was blocked into the returner, which
he was blocked. He was blocked into the guy that he was blocked into the Denver player who was blocked.
That's how I explained it. Was that yes, he was blocking a guy that he blocked into another guy, and that guy blocked him into the returner. So That's how Carl Cheffers managed to rationalize that was a Chiefs. But it was a great. I know you're absolutely right. Take nothing away from Byron Pringle or the officiating on the call. It was a great play, and Pringle always does that. I mean, special teams, whether he's returning kicks, he's a gunner, whatever it is, that guy's a gamer on special teams. Absolutely.
And he looked pissed off on that play. That's all I just saw him running down the field. I was like, oh God, he's going to kill somebody. It was great.
And that's what you have to have when you're not fully functional, when you have to win ugly. You have to have plays like that on teams, certainly on defense, and you have to have just a couple of spark plays on the offense to move the ball enough. And this was certainly an up and down game. I didn't expect this coming out of the bye, Matt. Did it catch you by surprise as well?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't expect. I thought the offense was going to come out a lot more sharp than it did, and not as flat as it certainly looked. But it's a continuation of the same thing that we've been talking about now for weeks, which is that the Chiefs' offense has been coming out looking great in the scripted portion, the first 15 plays, first drive of almost every single game. They've been effective over the last, really 5 to 6 weeks. Ever since the Tennessee game, I mean, they've continued to go out there on that first drive and move the football, almost always getting points, frequently getting into the end zone. And then what happens after that? The last few weeks have been absolutely nothing. There's just been a total disconnect between the efficiency of that first drive and the first 15 plays, and then what happens after that. And I thought that, again, we saw a lot of the same things that we've been talking about. The first drive is a lot of quick hitting passes, mixing in the run, not pushing anything downfield, just really taking advantage of the the 1,000 paper cuts offense and moving the ball downfield. And then you get out of that 15 scripted plays, and all of a sudden ball starts trying to go downfield a little bit more. It's pushing some balls on 2nd and 10 when maybe you shouldn't be. It's just you suddenly you're getting yourselves into 3rd and 9s instead of 3rd and 2s, and the offense gets behind the 8 ball a little bit. And as long as that continues to happen, whether it's drops, whether it's penalties, whether it's any of the other mistakes in execution, and sometimes it's just even decision making, as long as we continue to see that, as the game progresses and they get out of that comfort period of that scripted portion that they've worked so hard on, normally this offense has always thrived on chaos. When things break down, that's when this team has always been at its best. But right now, it seems to be that when they're their most organized, they're at their best. And then when they get into the part of the game that's a little more freelance, they're just not executing. And I can't explain that, because it's the exact opposite of what this team has really been the last 2 years.
I want to get into why that is here in a minute, because I have a couple of theories, and I thought some things came to light tonight that kind of explained that. But like you said, when they were in the script, that's when they scored tonight. The rest of it was ad lib and wasn't functional. And I'm going to have to go back and watch the film to figure out what's going on. And when I do that, I'm probably going to have to do it on my tablet, because the game will be on the TV and I'll have to watch something else on the phone. So I have to put it all together, and we can do that over a DirecTV stream, because that's what they do. They declutter, they de-emphasize everything, so you get everything in one spot, super clean, super simple, no annual contract. We really think that this is the new way to watch whatever you're going to watch, whether it's entertainment or sports or film or whatever you're there. You can find more about it over at directv.com. This is DirecTV Stream. You can see that at directv.com. A compatible device is required, and the package does vary. There's a lot going on in this particular game that I think was evidence of dysfunction in different small ways. It wasn't enough to bog down the whole offense and crush this game, but it was enough to make you nervous. The drops are still a thing. There's the scripting, like you talked about in the last segment, that is still a thing. I think the concern too is we saw very late in that ball game what looked like on a drive, both drives to end the halves concerned me. They gave up and quit on the first half, I think, early, and just packed it in. That is my personal opinion. I'm interested to see what you think. But the last drive, I thought also, we saw tension for what should have been the closeout of a ball game that you have well in hand. And we saw tension between EB and Patrick Mahomes in particular. Do you think that those two things are related?
I mean, my gut says that they probably are. And more so with the end of the game scenario. At the end of the first half, came up in the post-game press conferences, and Andy Reid said, hey, it was his decision to basically shut everything down there and play it conservative. And to me, that plays into a lot of the decisions that you're going to talk about from Andy Reid tonight. And really, his being a gut and momentum type of coach, much more so ever than an analytics kind of coach. Mm-hmm. Andy Reid's going to go by what his experience tells him, what he thinks his gut tells him, and he believes in momentum, and he believes in that power. So, he basically the way the first half had started to go, I don't think that he had a tremendous amount of faith that the offense could push the ball down the field and do anything in that last 69 seconds. So that's why he was fine playing conservative, packing it in, not trying to do anything. Mostly not making a mistake that would end up, handing the Broncos any points. So, you just really basically get out of the first half and get the kickoff to start the second half. You have another decision later on that becomes, criticized, which, with Andy Reid deciding to settle for the field goal rather than go for it on 4th and short to try and extend that drive and maybe get into the end zone. And Reid talked about that a little bit, but I mean, that's a classic Andy Reid decision. I mean, he's almost always in that situation. If he feels like his offense is performing and functioning and can get a conversion on 4th and short without any question, I think he's going to go for it. But this was a game, once again, he sees an opportunity that you've just gotten a turnover from the Broncos. If you get stopped on 4th and short, that's a tremendous momentum shift towards the Broncos. They've just given the ball up deep in their own territory, and their defense gets to stop and gets to hand it back to their offense with no points. That's the last thing Andy Reid wants. So he's going to get points out of that drive regardless. But then again, I mean, what in the last, at that point, since the opening drive, had convinced you that the Chiefs offense could convert in a 4th and short? I think in that situation, he just didn't have the confidence. And And late in the game, I mean, that it did not seem like that was a team that, 2 weeks ago against Dallas, they managed to put the game away. I mean, they took that last drive, took the ball, just extended it. This offense didn't have that confidence tonight. They didn't seem to have the confidence that they could, go out there and get that done tonight. And maybe it was a disagreement between Mahomes and the coaching staff too about, how best to handle that situation. Because I definitely think you're right. I didn't sense that there was agreement on how to handle that situation tonight.
I think it's very curious to see Andy Reid not go for it at the end of the first half. But then you start looking back at situational football, 90 yards to go with 2 timeouts, and you're up by 1 score at that point. If your offense had been clicking the entire season, maybe you try going for it. But they haven't. They haven't been. They've been struggling, and I get why he did what he did. I didn't like it particularly at the time, but you saw throughout the NFL today in another instance where the coach decided to trust his team and go for it, and it cost Baltimore a chance to at least play for a win against Pittsburgh. And that one play alone by Harbaugh could change the ability of Baltimore able to get the number 1 seed. If they lose one more game and the Chiefs win out, Kansas City would hop Baltimore and be the number 1 seed because of that one play.
Yeah, and that to me, it's hey, this is a whole other lengthy debate about analytics, but Andy Reid is very conventional in that respect. And one thing that he's always going to be looking at is that he's going to be looking at the likelihood of a 99% chance of making a field goal versus maybe the 40% chance of actually getting into the end zone in that situation, whatever he thinks maybe the odds are in that spot. And he's going to have a different opinion probably on what he thinks his team's odds are versus what the numbers say. And in that situation, to me, that's what he's looking at. You've hit it. I mean, he's looking at an offense that has not been automatic. He's looking at an offense that has not been striking in all those spots right now. So, he doesn't want to walk into that situation, especially in that situation right there. He wants points out of that drive. He does not want the Broncos to get out of that spot where they've just gotten the defensive stand. They've took the ball back away from the Chiefs, and they're at that point, 10 points down. That's that he'd rather be up 13 and not have the Broncos just had a momentum win than to be up 10. I mean, he would rather still have that momentum over even the possibility of, maybe you get a touchdown in that spot. That wasn't worth the risk to him, and it's never going to be worth the risk to him, especially when his offense is playing like this.
I think that's a great way to put it. It's about risk for Andy Reid. And I know he can't control it, but I do feel like something needs to be done. Another thing that surprised me coming out of the bye, there's still risk involved with not catching the ball. There are a significant amount of drops. I thought a break, a time away, reconcentration on the basic fundamentals of your job as a pass catcher would have corrected some of this, but clearly that's not the case. Where are we with this? Do we have any reasonable expectation that this is going to go away now 13 games into the season?
Yeah. To a degree, some of the drops have been different. And Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes have talked about that, that when they were talking about certainly the turnovers, and some of the turnovers were all a little bit different. The drops are the same way, but I'll tell you what, a couple of the drops, I absolutely, Tyreek Hill needs to catch that football. I don't know what next gen stats. I didn't see if they ever put it out there what it was, but in my book, that is 75% plus that's a catch. And
there's 2 of them he dropped.
And he had a couple of drops. Kelsey had a drop too that, and Mahomes took a little bit of the polish, the blame for that too. And it absolutely was, because he had a couple of throws that were not on target. He had one throw to Kelsey that, and I think even Pringle's, first drop fitted that a little bit too, which was that those were in areas that I think those receivers absolutely heard footsteps. They were going to get hit, and that's a pretty common drop. When a receiver, looks away from the football because they feel the hit coming. And there were a couple of those that Mahomes threw into spots where I know there was one Kelsey had that if he'd made the catch, he was going to get hit very hard. And then, Pringle had a drop that was, kind of another classic because he was kind of looking upfield to make the move and didn't just, wait for the ball to get to him. He was trying to take off without it. That's kind of another of these mental miscues. But I think that probably, again, a lot of this stems back to these guys pressing. I mean, we've talked about it for a while now, that the offense has been trying to make big plays, and sometimes you just have to wait and let for the game to come to you. And I think we're just seeing that a lot. And we talked about the ugliness of this game. I went back and looked at the numbers. This is the first time that since 2016, when Tyreek Hill arrived, that the Chiefs have won a game when both he and Kelsey go for fewer than 50 yards receiving. They had one win when Kelsey had exactly 50, and I think Hill had 46. That's the only other time that they've come close to winning a football game, when those two guys are both off on the same night. So that speaks a little bit to just, how rare it is to win a game this ugly. And they won it mostly because Darrell Williams and Clyde Edwards-Helaire came up with a couple of big plays. But the Broncos did everything that they could to take those two guys out of the game. Now, those two guys made a couple of plays that took themselves out of the game. But I think it's at the same point, you have to give the Broncos a little bit of credit. I mean, they purposely were geared this defensive attack towards, do not let Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce beat you. And to the most part, they executed that.
I think the biggest kudos goes to the other side of the ball. I want to get into the defense, but this holiday, grab yourself a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. It's real simple and it's worth doing. Chris will show you. I'll even show you, because these things are like gold. They're better than candy bars. Filled with as much holiday goodness as you can stand, rich, decadent, and covered in chocolate. You can have what you want. Amazingly low in calories, carbs, fat, and they're super high in protein, so they will get you through this holiday season. You get the best of both worlds, both delicious and healthy, with Built Bar. There's so many flavors, I can't go over them all. I refuse to, but the coconut and then the cookie dough, those are the good ones that you want to go order. And I do believe that they're still available. So help Santa out. Give him a few Built Bars. Maybe he'll even like those there with some little cookies. You don't have to give him all the milk. I think that's probably overblown. Just feed the man, will you? You guys can check it out, and you can get your discount by going with us to built.com. Use the promo code LOCKED15. You'll get 15% off of your next order. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. You can then go over to BetOnline, because you're going to have to make some of that money back that you just saved. You might as well put it on, a Chiefs bet. Like, will they score this game? That might be a prop bet worth taking the over on. I think that's probably good. Just don't go much above, 14 at this point. BetOnline has you covered for all those props, the strange ones and the straight up lines that you want to get your action in on. It's the number one spot for all of your sports action this season. Head over to the new and updated website, and all you got to do is jump in there. Get signed up with our code Locked On, and you get 50% bonus. You get 50% plus what you deposited in there from betonline.ag. It's the fastest, easiest way to get all your sports action on the line. betonline.ag, where the game starts.
Really quick. Defensively, it stuck out to me. Hitchens wasn't mentioned with the starters. Did anybody else notice that? Very early in the game.
He'll be fine with them. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
was that just on the broadcast, or?
Yeah, on the broadcast, he was not mentioned with the starters. I thought that was interesting. Secondarily, though, he missed some tackles on Javonte Williams, but there were a lot of people that did. But that block was absolutely phenomenal, and yes, it was a penalty. But man,
both those things are true. It was a fantastic thing to watch on a football field. It was also definitely, by the letter of the law, a penalty.
Yep.
Rules committee, you got to fix that. I'm just saying.
Oh, and how about Daniel Sorensen and Ben Neiman hooking up for the play of the game? Those two guys who've been much maligned by Chiefs Kingdom coming up for the play of the game.
If you're not on YouTube, folks, I'm clapping.
And Andy Reid, Tyrann Mathieu, they were all very, very happy for Dan Sorensen. And Dan Sorensen even took to the podium after the game and talked about it. And, it was he gave a really good answer at one point that I think probably everybody should go watch, because it was really just talking about, when you go through struggles and go through difficult times, and, what you have to do to kind of block those things out and, just kind of move forward. And he also, of course, said that he didn't listen to any of the criticism earlier in the season, didn't read any of the articles, says he won't read any of the articles talking about the great big plays tonight, that, the only critiques and criticism he's interested in is the locker room. And, that's Dan Sorensen in a capsule. I mean, that's always been the kind of the guy that Dan Sorensen is. I mean, he's not flashy. That celebration into the end zone is about the flashiest thing I think I've ever seen Dan Sorensen do. And I think there was some genuine emotion coming out there at just, the struggles that he's had, and then to have a big moment like that. But yeah, for Ben Niemann to kick it off and then Sorensen to make the big play and finish it off that way, that was big for this. I mean, we talk about these moments that have helped this Chiefs defense go along. I think that was another one of those moments, because that was a time for that entire group come together, and they were very, very happy for Dan.
And congratulations to Bridgewater for at least getting a hit in on this return.
Well, he gave him like a boost. He strapped a rocket on his back or something. I don't know what that was. But, hey, you guys will hear me say this. Good for Dan Sorensen. I'm happy for him. This doesn't erase all the criticism that he's faced, because that's all legit. But I will say this. The problem early in the season is that we were having the negative plays from Dan, and we weren't getting these plays that he has always had a nose for. So I think going forward, especially in this third down package relief type substitute role, as long as he can contribute some of those, we can live with the negative plays, because it all evens out. I think Dan Sorensen's just a roller coaster at this point. We have to have the upside to go with the downside, don't we, Matt?
Yeah, and I stand by what I've said about Dan Sorensen for years, is that I truly believe. I think he's one of the best number 3 safeties in the league. It's when you ask him to be more than that you're going to start seeing some warts, and you're going to start seeing some things popping out. And, man's 31 years old. He's never been the fastest guy on a football field. He's always been one of the smartest guys and the hardest working guys on the football field. And those are two tremendous to his credit. But you're absolutely right. I mean, one of the things that Andy Reid preaches and Steve Spagnuolo preaches is putting guys in the right positions to make plays. And it's not entirely on Dan Sorensen. I put it on Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo that earlier in this season, they were putting him in a position where he could not make plays. They were asking him to do things that were beyond his skill set. And that was a mistake. And whether that was simply, whatever their decision-making was with Juan Thornhill, whatever that, I don't know exactly what it was, but I do think that was probably a mistake earlier in the season. Now it's worked out. Juan Thornhill's playing extremely well in his role. I think Dan Sorensen's playing better, and now that he's got a specific role in which he fits his niche, and now you're seeing Dan Sorensen with some confidence, I think that's only going to be good for this defense going forward.
I just got to say really quick, the one thing that really stuck out to me in the second half is one thing that we did not want to see early on in the season was Daniel Sorensen bailing out from the line of scrimmage and going back deep in coverage. We saw that how many times tonight? I saw it at least 4 or 5 times in the second half, where he was bailing out and going back in coverage, and it didn't seem to be an issue. So this defense has changed what they're doing, and it's working, and I think that that's a huge thing going forward. And kudos to Melvin Ingram for starting the sack party off early in the game.
That's absolutely true, but I want to go back one more minute, too, because we can all be happy for Dan Sorensen. Juan Thornhill made a heck of a play, too, and I like what you said about roles, Dan, because – Dan Sorensen playing in his role works. The interesting thing was, and I think this is a more significant play than we realized at the time because of the Hitchens penalty and all that stuff. This was Juan Thornhill doing what he doesn't do. This was Juan Thornhill playing the Matthew role. He was in the robber there with Matthew and Sorensen over the top of him. This shows that his skill set is more than we've asked him to do in the past, and it ended up in a brilliant play that we're used to watching him play over the top so that Matthew can make. I think this is important for his evolution for this Chiefs 2022 roster to look at what their safety group's going to be, especially with the contract situation with Matthew. Having Juan Thornhill be able to step outside of his just deep role, that's got to be a significant step forward, doesn't it?
Oh, it absolutely does. I mean, especially, since the core of the argument that the Chiefs made early in the season was that, Juan Thornhill lacked confidence, that he wasn't necessarily playing with the confidence that he had as a rookie. And I think we're seeing that now. I mean, and a play like that tonight it was really big because, one, he'd come close to a few other interceptions, and it was really kind of, I think, driving him crazy, and maybe even the rest of the team were like, gosh, this guy's got to finally get his hands on the football because he's been so close. So I think finally, getting over the hump on that one is going to be tremendous for his confidence. And I think the way that has been playing and the way that this defense has, absolutely. I mean, next year is going to be a very pivotal year for Juan Thornhill, excuse me.
See, we're all doing it.
Exactly. I mean, the outcomes for where Juan Thornhill can go are still incredibly wide. I mean, he can become, I think, a star, or he can just become another player. It's in his hands. But if he can build off moments like tonight and really build off the performance that he's contributed to this defense over the last few weeks, then yeah, I mean, I think that there's an incredible potential for him. He's just got to be able to season, and I think we're starting to see him do that.
And I think the other thing that I want to point out really quick before we go to game balls, Shavarius Ward has continued to play well. Obviously, we didn't see Snead get thrown out tonight, but Ward, when he was thrown at, showed that he has the ability to play corner at a very high level, and I think that's really helped Kansas City as well. Matt, who are you giving your game ball to this week?
I've been going back and forth on this one. There's in my heart of hearts, I kind of wanted to give it to Andrew Wiley for that pancake block that he had on Bradley Chubb on Mahomes' touchdown run, because I was just so happy for the guy. But I'm just so completely torn. So many guys on the defense had some really good games. Nobody on the offense had a very good game except for the running backs. I'm still torn. And I feel like whoever I take, I'm going to make one of the two of you mad. So, you know what? I'm going to go with the unpopular pick. Dan Sorensen, my game ball. The old man deserves it.
I just want to say really quick, you talked about the pancake block by Wiley. I don't remember if it was in the second quarter, but Orlando Brown just crushed the Broncos defender and stood over him and just looked down on him for like 5 seconds on the field. It was great. And I haven't seen that enough by Chiefs linemen. It's just great to be able to see that kind of thing. And this line is playing very well right now. Ryan, who's your game ball go to?
I'm going to take the other obvious out. I'm going to give it to Juan because I think not just making that play as a big play, but allowing the rest of this defense to know that he's the guy backing them up. I think that that's more significant than we let on in the evolution and where we've gotten this defense to at this point in the season.
I'm sorry I missed it. I was coughing. What did you say?
Hi, his name's Juan Thornhill. He wears number 22.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay. Folks, now that we've enlightened Chris.
He's playing with pain, man. He's playing with pain.
I'm giving mine to Willie Gay. I thought Willie Gay played a really good game. He had some huge stops for Kansas City. He was very clutch at different times. His speed really is a difference maker on this defense, and I think that's so huge for this team going forward. I really hope that it continues. And I do want to throw out there really quick, because I don't think we mentioned this. There was one injury, and we'll see whether or not it's a long-term injury, but Chris Lamons, is that how you pronounce it, Matt?
That appears to be what we're going with, yes.
It's a 24-hour race now?
Yeah, ankle injury. Who knows when he'll be back, but just want to throw that out there. I'm done. You guys have fun.
Matt, thank you for the time. I know you're up late. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Chris, get better. We all need you, man.
Oh,
appreciate that.
Folks, thank you for listening today and making us your first listen. We will definitely be back with you tomorrow. Matt and I will be back on Wednesday as well, and we'll get ready to take you through the next week. There's a lot more to talk about, a lot of details. We will talk to you tomorrow.